Great. Hello, everybody, and a big thank you for joining us tonight for the first of what we hope will be a series of roundtables, if you like, of community boards discussing sanitation issues. My name is Oliver Wright. I'm the chair of the Brooklyn Solid Waste Advisory Board, and I'm very, very pleased to welcome you and thank you for your time. We've scheduled approximately an hour and a half for tonight's meeting, going until about 8 o'clock. A lot of that will be open discussion, so we'll see. We won't run over time. If we are very concise with our words, we might finish a little bit early, but in my experience, when talking about trash, people are happy to talk about it all day. So I'm very, very pleased to welcome the Borough President, Antonio Reynoso, tonight. A very big thank you for joining us tonight, Borough President. Since it behooves us to hand over to you for some opening remarks, I'll just do that straight away, if you like, before we then dive into the content and the running order of what we're going to cover tonight.
Thank you, Oliver. Thank you, Shari. I appreciate you both and the work that you guys are doing. To the entire BkSWAB, it's so great to be here again. It's been quite some time, and I miss you all. I miss talking trash. I haven't been talking as much about it as I should or I want to, but the first 6 months here in Borough Hall have been absolutely amazing, and I'm looking forward to taking time in the work that I'm doing now to expand on the leadership that I hope I displayed or exemplified during my time as a council member. And to be honest, I really don't feel like much has changed in the time that I'm in Borough President. Still want to focus on are save as you throw, containerized waste, mandatory organics, amongst other things. And so for me, it's just really continuing to be a partner with you all on those types of issues. Of course, there's a lot of nuances to it, and that's what I kind of expect for many of you to help me with, but just that you're gonna have as strong an ally in the work that we need to be doing with trash as a Borough President that you had council member. And so much so that if you look through the chat, I believe, to the Zoom, Lacey Tauber, who was my legislative director in City Hall, is now the legislative director in Borough. And there's arguably no one that knows more about Justin Lacey and the work that she did for the waste equity and also the zone, the waste zone legislation. I just thought also, we're currently dealing with an administration who I think at the moment prefers to look out for the interests of these businesses than they do about the law that we have to make it so that we have these zones that are actually important for climate change, for environmental justice, of course, and for workers. So we know there's fights ahead of us, and we hope that this, the BkSWAB lays the foundation for what we're going to be jumping off of in the next couple of years, and hopefully we have a good 3.5 more years of work alongside each other. I want to thank you all for allowing me to speak, and I want to make sure you remember not to forget to spread love. It's the Brooklyn way. Thank you so much.
Well said, as ever. Thank you very much. We really appreciate those opening remarks.
Thank you.
And before we begin as well, I'd like to, just acknowledge some other colleagues and associates who are in attendance tonight. So have a number of Brooklyn SWAB colleagues. We've all identified ourselves by putting BkSWAB on the end of our display name. So we have Shari Reichel, Bella Makari, Rhonda Kaiser, Elizabeth Roisman, Michael Reiser, and Ann Basson, who will be helping us with facilitating the discussions tonight. And also, a shout out as well to Lacey Tauber from Borough President Reynoso's office, who has been incredibly supportive of the Brooklyn SWAB so far. We're delighted to be able to continue a close relationship with the Brooklyn Borough President's office. So wanted to thank you for all that you've done to support us so far, including helping us here tonight. So a big welcome again to everybody. Thank you to those who have put your both your CB number in your display name and also who've introduced yourselves in the chat. I apologize that we're not going to be able to go around and hear from everybody individually at the start of the session due to numbers and experience with Zoom. That takes ages. But we will be breaking into breakout rooms a little bit later on, and we'll be able to get to know each other a little bit better then. So to kick us off, I'm just going to talk a little bit about tonight and why we've asked you here and what we hope to get out of it and what we hope you'll get out of it before we crack on. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully this will work. So are you all able to see my presentation at this point? Excellent. Okay. Thank you all. So let's talk about trash. So we just heard from Borough President Reynoso as a kickoff, and I should say as well that Borough President, we understand that you may have a busy schedule that requires you to be elsewhere at a certain point of this meeting. So you're very welcome to stick around for as much of it as you would like to and can, but obviously you're welcome to leave us at any point. So a big thank you again for joining us. I'm going to talk about why we're here. I talk a little bit about the Brooklyn Solid Waste Advisory Board, just to recap for those of you who don't necessarily know much about it. We're then going to go into breakout rooms to discuss sanitation issues, followed by a general discussion, and then we'll talk about next steps and close out. So why do we want to talk about trash in the first place? Well, as you just heard from the Borough President, trash and sanitation issues affect all New Yorkers. It's a huge issue, and it's not just about sanitation. Sanitation issues overlap with public health, environmental justice, economic prosperity, a little bit of everything. It affects so much. It's a very intersectional topic. Issues, though, vary by neighborhood, and Brooklyn is a very large borough, and citizen boards like the ones you represent are well placed to report on these issues, living with them every day as you do. So because of that, Brooklyn SWAB, we would like to hear from and discuss with community boards of the issues that are most important to each community. Now, the solid waste advisory boards themselves, there's currently 4, one in Queens, one in Manhattan, one in the Bronx, and one in Brooklyn. That's us. We were created in 1989 to advise elected officials on programs regarding waste prevention, reuse, and recycling. And we sort of represent each borough on waste and recycling issues. We conduct research, support the development of legislation, host events, and perform outreach. And we're voluntary organizations, so attendance and membership, which can be separate, is free and open to everyone. The Brooklyn SWAB, that's us. And in fact, in the top picture, you can see Borough President Reynoso back before he was Borough President. But we hold monthly general meetings that take place on the first Monday of the month. At the moment, we used to meet in Borough Hall, but since the pandemic, we've been over Zoom. We don't currently have a timeline for when we're going to return to in-person meetings, but we'll see about that. We generally feature a guest speaker each month and catch up on happenings in the waste world, of which there are always plenty. So there's always loads to talk about. So all are welcome. So if you are interested in waste at all, then you're very welcome to come. We have a number of committees, as well as the executive committee. We have an organics industry committee, a legislative committee, an events committee, and a committee dedicated to NYCHA that we actually we join on to the Manhattan SWAB's NYCHA committee to talk about NYCHA specific issues. All these committees also meet monthly and are open to the public. So if you are interested in a particular topic, then you can just join that relevant.
Good evening. It's okay. Thank you.
We also host events. Here are some of the flyers from some past events that we've hosted. We try to host multiple events each year and often partner with other organizations to do so, sometimes with the other SWABs. That can include film screenings, town hall discussions, panel discussions, public hearings, and so on and so forth. There's not really a limit to the type of event we could do. So we're always open to new partnerships and new events as well. And we do quite a lot on supporting the development of policy and legislation as well as advocacy. So we testify at public hearings quite a lot, providing feedback on bills. Some of our recent ones are there. I won't bother listing them all. We're a member of several coalitions, including Save Our Compost and Reusable NYC. We were a member of the Bagot advocacy group as well, that was pushing for the single-use plastic bag ban. And some of the advocacy that we've taken part in is listed there as well. A lot of it is focused on organics, as that's been a very, very hot topic, especially since the pandemic. But also banning single-use items and things like that. So we keep ourselves busy on the advocacy front. And what we're aiming to achieve and what our priorities are going forward are we're looking to advocate for an inclusive waste program that benefits all of New York City, adequate resourcing not only of the Department of Sanitation, but also zero waste programs that are not as centralized and organizations that are not as centralized, really prioritizing the funding of moving towards zero waste. We want to support the development of the next solid waste management plan, which is a very big planning document that comes out. The last one was 2006, so it'll be 20 years by the time this next one comes out. We want to back relevant legislation. We support, try and help stuff move forward. And also we want to just continue to develop networks of individuals and organizations in Brooklyn and in New York City more broadly. We want to act as a kind of fulcrum for people to meet each other, for organizations to get to know each other and hear about each other's work, and just sort of spread the word. And we want to expand our membership. I'll talk a bit about our membership in just a second, but we're always looking for new members and new voices. It just helps to make us stronger. So in terms of our overlap and interaction with community boards, we have 22 members, and between us we cover roughly half the community boards in terms of where we live, but we have active membership in several, a handful, I would say. And our outreach and engagement with these community boards has included attending various community board meetings to speak about specific issues, whether that's by appointment or just like on the day. We've given presentations to boards and committees that are either about general waste issues or topic specific. I should have also acknowledged earlier Greg Todd from CB8, who's joining us tonight as a community board 8 member, but he's also a Brooklyn SWAB member, and he's done an awful lot on that front. So hi Greg, and welcome and thanks. So that's all fine and good, but this approach we have found is quite time consuming. We're a volunteer board and our time is limited, and it's also a little bit one-off or one way. We don't kind of want to go into community boards, talk to you about waste and then leave. We'd rather foster an ongoing dialogue. A lot of the community boards have specific committees relevant to sanitation issues. So you're discussing sanitation, we're discussing sanitation. Like, why aren't we talking more? So we really want to foster a more of a two-way dialogue where we as a SWAB can learn about what the issues are that are most important to each community board, which will help us do more effective advocacy and representation, and also conduct area-specific outreach and events. Partnering with organizations in specific areas to talk about specific topics. And the community boards also can then use Brooklyn SWAB as a partner and resource, whether it's getting us to do things on the community board's behalf, talking to us about specific things, asking us to give talks, asking us to partner with you on events, that sort of stuff. And also not just between us and one community board, but also community boards sharing ideas with each other as well. That's hopefully what tonight will be the start of the process of. So with that in mind, it's now trash talking time. what we're going to do is go into breakout rooms. We've got 30 minutes assigned for this. I can see it's almost 10 to 7. So we've got half an hour, and we're going to break into several breakout rooms. And we've got these as guiding questions. We'll have a moderator from Brooklyn SWAB in each of the breakout rooms. But what we want to know is, and this is an open discussion, so we encourage, open and honest discussion about anything related to sanitation or as an offshoot of sanitation. We want to know what your primary concerns are in your committee, in your community board, and in your community board and community more broadly. How is your community handling these issues? And if you have top 3 priorities, then we'd love to hear them. Hopefully you should have had these questions in advance and maybe had a time to think about them a little bit. If not, it's an open discussion. We've got half an hour, so we've got quite a lot of time to cover stuff off. So is that clear? And does anybody have any questions? You can use the raise hand function if you want to ask any questions before we get going on that. Okay, cool. Seems like it's so far so clear. So I can see we have approximately 12 community board members. So I think we'll go with 2 breakout rooms. I'm going to create these breakout rooms now. It's going to take me a minute to do this. So I'm going to manually assign people to hopefully get a good representation across the breakout rooms. So just give me a moment. Thanks, Sherry.
He'll still keep going. You let me know. Sadly, I've won no money on Final Jeopardy lately.
Okay, I think we're there.
Perfect.
One final note, if you are bored with your breakout room, I think you can return to the main session and possibly join the other one. I'm not entirely sure. So here we go then. I'm giving us 28 minutes. Hi, Christian. I understand you've been having some problem with the audio on the call. Are you still struggling to hear us?
Sorry, no, I finally hear you, but regrettably, I have another meeting now at 7 o'clock. But
Oh, okay.
can you give me a minute, fill in on what I missed this first 25 minutes?
Sure. Yeah, no problem. So what I said was I gave an introduction on basically the Brooklyn SWAB and who we are. I mean, have you heard of the Brooklyn SWAB before, or do you want me to recap?
Yeah, a
that
little
quickly?
bit through Kendall. Kendall's on the Environmental Protection Committee with me.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay. He's a very active member of our SWAB. Yeah. Basically, we're a volunteer citizens board. Like the community boards, but we focus specifically on waste and sanitation issues. So we do a mix of like research, outreach, advocacy. We advise on policy and legislation. We do a lot of advising elected officials on developing legislation. That's kind of our raison d'etre, if you like. Because of the fact that we represent the borough of Brooklyn, we wanted to start a more ongoing dialogue with community boards generally. Pretty much all the community boards have a committee, such as your Environmental Protection Committee, that will deal with sanitation as part of its remit. And so there's committees meeting every month to talk about sanitation, and we're meeting every month to talk about sanitation. But so we're trying to foster a kind of ongoing dialogue, if you like, with and between community boards about what are the key issues. What should we be focusing on in terms of advocacy? What would be good to do outreach on? What would be good to do events on? Could we do events in specific places that would that would then have more impact, and just that kind of stuff. So tonight's a kind of a starting point, if you like, for that process. It's a bit of an experiment, I suppose, and we'll see how it goes. So we are recording this, so it will be available to watch afterwards if you're able to, or if not, we can keep in touch, obviously about the next one. And I don't know if anybody else from CB9 is on the call or not. I didn't notice, but if not, we can catch up and continue the discussion.
Yeah, that sounds great. When I looked, it sounds like folks are now in breakout rooms.
Yes, they are. I don't know. I can see. Hi, Assad, and hi, Matt. I'm able to assign you guys to a breakout room shortly. I know, Christian, you have to leave shortly, don't you? So, yeah, that's what we're doing. And it's basically just to discuss what the key issues are facing each community board, each community really, on sanitation and sanitation adjacent issues. Okay, so it's a kind of cool open discussion.
That sounds good. I won't be able to join a breakout room because I have to jump off for the 7 o'clock meeting. Sure. But it's certainly in brief. Environmental Protection Committee of Community Board 9, which is South Crown Heights, Prospect Lefferts Gardens, Wingate, and parts of Flatbush. We're very active on this. We've drafted a letter that we shared with our council members, asking for them to pilot on-street containerized trash receptacles, to bring that specifically to our borough, and also to restore the funding and more consistent pickups for trash receptacles. We've also we did a survey of our neighborhoods. We identified high traffic areas where we are seeing a lot of trash and either no trash receptacles or the old school trash receptacles. So it's just to say in brief that we're very active on the issue. We're very engaged. And I don't know if I will be chairing this committee come September. I'm actually going to find out probably tonight. That's part of this next community board meeting that I have to jump into. But okay, I think the committee, no matter if I'm chairing it or not, will be very interested to continue the conversation. Great.
That's really good to know, and great to hear that you're doing so much as well already. So yeah, that's fantastic. So thank you for that brief brief recap.
Yeah, of course. And do you meet over the summer, the SWAB?
We have a July meeting, which is July the 11th, and then we're going to take August off and reconvene in September.
Well, I don't know if it'll be me in, I don't know if I'll be chairing it in September. I think we're going to take a break for July, but we would love to continue the conversation. And if it's not me, I'd be happy to put them in touch with you, or put them in touch with Kendall to get back in touch with the SWAB.
Yeah, sounds perfect. And yeah, I mean, do you hope to continue as chair, or are you standing down, as it were?
I would love to continue as chair. It's really important work, and I think that there's a lot of passion around it. And of course, on community boards, there are areas of divergence, but actually, when it comes to sanitation, it's one of the things that I think we all agree. That we can disagree on the specifics and the particulars, but I think there's enough goodwill and enthusiasm for trying to mitigate the sanitation issues plaguing our community, that we can do some good work there. So I would love to continue in the role, but I'm running for treasurer of the community board. And if I do get that, which I'll find out tonight, then I don't think I'm going to be able to do both.
Sure, fair enough. That makes total sense. Well, yeah, in that case, I mean, I hope, well, I hope you do make it as treasurer, in which case I hope I don't see you as the chair of the Environmental Protection Committee moving forward. But yeah, thank you very much for joining tonight. I'll let you get on to your next meeting, and we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch for sure. Thank you for running this organization. It sounds like a great outcome, and I'm glad that Kendall invited me.
Great, thanks so much. Asad and Matt, hi guys. Sorry about that brief interview. Welcome and good to see you. Asad, congratulations again on joining the community board. That's great news.
Thank you. I also apologize. I thought the meeting started at 7, so why I'm a little bit late. I apologize.
That's fine. All I've done so far, as you might have heard, was give a bit of a recap on what the Brooklyn SWAB is and what it does. We will be sharing the meeting recording, so you can recap on that if you like. But yeah, very briefly, we're a citizens board that advises elected officials on waste and recycling issues. So we're specific to Brooklyn, but there is also one for Manhattan and Queens, and the Bronx as well. So we're just looking to get a dialogue going with all the community boards on what the key waste issues are or sanitation issues are in each community board. I understand you're very new to the community board, so you might not have the all the insight on what's happening in the community board itself, but you are a local resident, so I'm sure you've got some valuable insight. So I might, as the breakout rooms are underway, I think there's about 20 minutes left. I'll drop you into one if that's okay. I'm going to drop you into room 2 and then go from there. And Barb, I'm going to do the same with you. Drop you into room 2. Hi, by the way, nice to see you.
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm so late.
It's fine, no worries. All right, here you go.
Thanks.
Oh, Pamela.
Hi,
Hi.
welcome back, everyone. Thank you all for your participation in that. Certainly in our one, the conversation was interrupted mid-flow. Apologies, Beth, for that. Proving again that trash is a fairly endless subject. So yeah, a big thank you again, everyone, for the discussion there. I'm sure that, you know, we didn't cover everything, and also that not everybody necessarily got a chance to speak, just with the nature of these things. So what we're going to do now is we have another 30 minutes scheduled for feedback from the breakout rooms and then general discussion, so we can continue to discuss the topics that were broached in those rooms. And I'd appreciate as well if you hadn't had a chance to speak, or hadn't, you know, had a point that you were burning to make in the breakout rooms but didn't get a chance to make, then please raise your hand and we'll prioritize you in this session so that you can speak. We'd like to hear from everybody if we possibly can. So with that said, we'll do a quick bit of feedback, and I'd like to ask, we had a note taker in each room, and I'd like to ask them to lead the feedback from the room, in terms of just running through the main issues and topics that were discussed, not necessarily in exhaustive detail, but just as a quick recap. And then if anybody else from the room feels that something was missed in the recap, or want to add anything else, then they can jump in at that point as well. And we'll just do that for a few minutes each, and then we'll move on to general discussion. So room one, I believe Liz was the note taker for room one. So Liz, would you like to feedback on our room?
Yeah, thank you. We had a good discussion. We had a couple of community boards that are waterfront communities. So we community board 11 and 13. And those community board members spoke about the issue of floatable waste on the waterfront. So, you know, cigarette butts and plastic and dog poopy bags in the water and on the beach. And what happens is whatever goes into the catch basins ends up along the shoreline. So yeah, definitely a lot of concern. Like everybody has waste concerns, but along the waterfront, it gets compounded because it ends up in the waterways. And also the waterfronts usually are park property, and parks don't necessarily pick up as regularly as, you know, we would like them to. And also, like, it's a seasonal issue with, you know, a lot more trash generated by a lot more people visiting with the waterfront areas during, you know, summer season. Also along the waterfront, another issue, there's a lot of high-rise buildings that have their own compactors, and the trash gets put out in containers, which seems to work well. But there was a question from community board member in 13 about if there could be potentially an incentive for buildings to build the compactors and set up a containerization system, since that seems to help matters. But it's pretty expensive to build, so. Then inland, we have community board representatives from CB8, and they talked about rat infestation and the issue of garbage generated from the outdoor dining, because those areas can get like the street sweeping. So there's trash buildup and hence more rats. And again, overloaded litter receptacles. And then there was an issue of from Community Board 12, there's a lot of religious schools that are not like on the DSNY pickup schedule. So I think there's like private quarters, and there's like an issue with maybe the garbage bags not being picked up in a timely way. So that's more, garbage more food in the garbage, and hence more rats. So just a lot of a lot of compounding issues. So.
Thank you.
So a lot of problems.
Does anyone have anything to add from that room? It's a pretty. All right, go ahead, Beth.
Hi, I just wanted to clarify that the religious schools in CB12 are picked up by DSNY, but they're not on the same schedule as the public schools, according to the people on my community board. I have not verified that, but that is the complaint, and that they often just get passed by, and so the bags of trash are like left behind even like after pickup days.
Great, thank you for that clarification.
A lot of it could be solved with composting, but that's another story.
Sure.
I just
great.
want to make another
Yeah.
point that one of the other issues was the lack of enforcement in these areas. That it's been dumbed down instead of climbing up, and that adds to the trash, the rats, and all the other issues.
Sure, that makes sense. Thank you. Anything else from room 1 before we move on to room 2? I don't see anything. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. Our note taker from room 2, I believe, was Michael. Hi, Michael.
Hi. We heard that we live on a peninsula surrounded by water, and all the trash washes into the waterways, and that CB13 has a big trash problem, especially because they don't have a good sanitation garage, and they were promised a new sanitation garage 45 years ago during the Koch administration, and there's still not a plan to put it, to put it into effect, to build it. And it would take a couple of years, and still 5 to 10 years out. So that is a major concern, a major concern for CB 13 and 15. There's problems with mixed pickups, especially missed pickups, especially on multiple, when holidays occur on Mondays and you have multiple holidays on Mondays, then the recycling doesn't get picked up for possibly 2 or 3 weeks. Many people in Coney Island, especially in Sheepshead Bay, speak Russian, Spanish, and Chinese, and don't understand that they have to opt back into the compost program, and therefore the compost program doesn't, not enough people opt in, and so they don't get the brown bin program out there, and that's a problem. Let's see. Everyone in Community Board 15 got the brown bin, but nobody used it for their compost, either because, well, they got education, but they just didn't want to do it. They didn't understand the importance of it, or they understood and they just didn't want to do it. And we need more kitchen table conversations, one-on-one works, because educating the kids, they educate their parents, ask their parents why about, and that's important. And that even in St. Lawrence County, which is a rural county up in the northern part of the state, very few people understand the importance of composting. And low participation is a result of not enough education. And then people wondered about how the composting, mandatory composting and the voluntary drop-off programs would work together. I think that sums it up. Anything that I missed?
I think one thing that I was really surprised about was like the lack of recycling on the beach, and how people want to do that, but that there isn't that option. That was one thing that I thought was interesting. Also, that it seems like out there there's and I say out there because I'm more inland, but that the electronic recycling doesn't get to be an option for people out there as much, and that they'd have to travel further. Where was it? Like Sheepshead Bay, I think, or Bensonhurst, was that the closest drop off point? Thought that was interesting too.
Thank you both. Oh, Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, and one other thing that I thought was interesting was about one person, her name was Betty. She was mentioning about how departments, if they work together, like sanitation, the parks department would work together on the boardwalk to make recycling bins out there. You know, it's like that kind of stuff, you know, interdepartment working together really needs to start happening in the city for this to actually work, I believe. Or for recycling to actually really, really work, is if they all work together. Haha. It's so simple, Matt. Thanks.
Indeed. Thank you, Bob. Does anybody else have anything to add for room 2? Doesn't look like it. Okay, great. Thank you then for the feedback, everyone involved in that. So really what we have left scheduled before we wrap up is just a bit more time for open discussion. So I'd like to just invite anybody who either didn't get a chance to speak or make a point they wanted to make in the breakout rooms to raise their hand and speak up, and we can discuss that. Or if anybody wanted to elaborate more on what was discussed in either of the breakout rooms, or something else has occurred to you, then please go ahead and you can use the raise hand function. That's probably the easiest way of getting a stack going or a queue going. Or that's probably the easiest way to do it. If you're not able to do that, then just unmute yourself and yell out. I think there's not too many of us that can't still work. Okay. It's not an immediate uptake on that, which maybe means that we had pretty good discussions.
I have a question. I have a question for people. So I asked this in our group too. People who were on the coastal areas called some of the street litter floatables, and it seems like most of that is single-use plastic. Is that fair to say? Single-use plastic. So it's straws, utensils, wrappers, cigarette butts, even styrofoam, which is, even though it's outlawed now. So that kind of single-use plastic. Okay.
It would be interesting to know if there's been any sort of studies done of floatables, like the composition of floatables. Like, it's hard to see what else would be in there apart from what you've just mentioned. But it would be interesting to see a breakdown. I don't know if anybody's aware of anything along those lines.
Pamela, you might know about.
Well, I just wanted to follow up with what Rhonda was saying as far as the single-use plastic issue. If there's any way the community boards could do some pushing for the skip the stuff bill, because that's going to be straws upon request, and some of the other, I guess it's utensils. Or just some other pushing about education about single-use plastics, and maybe not even using them, because if that's what's showing up on the beaches, then
we could stop it at the source, right?
Right.
Indeed, yeah. Good point, Anne. And yeah, the skip the stuff bill is a piece of legislation that, as Anne said, would default single-use items from takeout, such as cutlery and condiments and napkins, to being on request only. So that would cut out a lot of the single-use stuff at source. It's something that it's a bill that we've backed and supported as a SWAB, as the Solid Waste Advisory Board, and certainly one of the things that we can do moving forward as as a result of this process and as a result of increased dialogue with our community board partners is giving details out like that, of stuff that we're supporting or feel needs support, through our mailing list. I mean, we sent stuff around about skip the stuff to our mailing list, so we'll make sure that all of the community boards are represented on our mailing list, and that we have warm contacts for those that we can send those sort of things to. I'd like to go to Pamela next, as I know that she was due to speak on that point, and then we'll go to Lolita, who I can see has her hand up as well. So thanks for your patience.
Yeah, I do shorefront cleanups in the community. And there is a majority of it is plastics, but we have CSOs here in Coney Island. So we have needles and we have trash that washes up from other communities. I think one of the CSOs, I think it actually connects to Marine Park. So we are constantly fighting this battle. But the battle needs to be fought not just by doing shorefront cleanups. We have to start doing it at the source, which is not just throw the trash in this on the sidewalks or in the streets or where it goes into the storm drains and it washes back up into the water. But I think the solution would be to end single-use plastic so we don't have this problem of disposing of them and where to put them.
That's great. And I just want to add, if I can just interject and respond to that quickly. There's some state legislation that we haven't voted on as a SWAB to endorse, but we'll keep you posted if we can get behind that about that.
Do you want to elaborate on that briefly, Rhonda?
Well, I can just talk about it. It's extended producer responsibility, which asks the producers of the garbage to work on or single-use plastics, which becomes garbage really quickly, to be responsible financially. But also there was some legislation that we took issue with as a SWAB, as 4 SWABs, but then now there's some legislation that actually addresses every issue that we had. It lowers toxins in plastic. It also aims to lower packaging in general. So it can help, especially in conjunction with the local bills like Skip the Stuff bill and that kind of effective legislation to stop it at the source from people getting it.
Single-use plastics is only part of the problem. And plastic shopping bags have basically been outlawed. And I can get a plastic shopping bag practically every time I go shopping without asking for it. The bodega will offer it, this one will offer it, the drugstore. There's still a zillion plastic shopping bags out there if you want it. People are making the garbage. People are illegally dumping. People are leaving the garbage behind on the beach. People walk down the street, I watch them, and they leave their orange peels, they're just a trail of garbage. Restaurants, the sanitation department can't get around these illegal dumping things, these outdoor dining things. Cars are not moved for alternate side parking. I watched the street sweeper come by my neighborhood a couple of weeks ago on an alternate side day, and none of the cars were moved. And there was garbage under all of the cars, and none of the cars were ticketed. And I know it's not politically correct to talk about enforcement anymore, but geez Louise, we did not have a lot of these problems back when there was more enforcement. And Brighton Beach Avenue, the director of the Brighton Beach Business Improvement District, is going out of her mind practically every day with illegal dumping, with piles of boxes and furniture and all sorts of stuff. Single-use plastics is great, but that's just a part of it.
Thank you. It's a very good a very good point, and it's not politically incorrect to talk about enforcement. It's a discussion that needs to happen, what the appropriate level of enforcement is, and so it's great to raise it as an issue. Thank you. I'm going to move to Lolita next, who's been waiting patiently with her hand up. Thank you, Lolita.
I just would like to add actually to what Pamela said prior and all these floatables. I was doing also a few beach cleanups on the on the creek where we have outfall, and it just brings all the stuff that is on the streets, the small stuff from catch basins and things like that to the through the outfall to that creek. And we were surprised, but the most the items that we found the most common was cups from the plastic bottles. So people open the bottle, the caps, yes, they just open the bottle and they throw the cap out. And then the bottle will not probably catch in the, but these small caps of different colors, they end up at the beach in the numbers. We just have bags of them picked up. And also I'm going to confirm with Pamela as well, there was a lot of needles. A lot of needles, because we did it as a part with the stewardship for parks program, and they had a special containers for needles as well. But the caps, I think it could be maybe manufacturers, if they did something that the cap is like not as sort of attachable to the bottle, instead of just open it up and throw it on the street, because they're going to end up in some fish belly. Because it's a small item, it's just really pollutant, not only to people, but to animals and to it's really bad for ecology, honestly. And also I would like to say, to bring up also the fact that Ida was talking about in the Brighton Beach, and this, we have a lot of that not so much dailies, but the stores that sell vegetables and produce and stuff, it's a lot of this. The stench there is crazy, and people are putting these boxes, and these stores are not disposing of the stuff properly. Especially one of the stores that everybody had a fight with, the whole neighborhood have a fight with that store. And including the people who live in the building adjacent to it, they just have very improper way to store their refuse, I would say, and the boxes. That needs to be taken care of. I think that we brought it up all the way to Borough Hall, and I don't know, it's still there.
Thank you, Lolita. Could you remind us what community board you're representing?
It is CB13.
CB13, yes, thank you. Okay, good to know. Thank you then. We'll go to Marnie next, who has her hand raised.
Yes, thank you. So I wanted to add that on our commercial corridors, we have mixed use buildings. So it's ground floor commercial with 2 or 3 units above. And many of those units do not have backyards or a place to store their receptacles. So what we have on those strips are improper disposal in our corner litter baskets. And as you know, 3 or 4 of those bags fill up, and then we have overflowing baskets. So that's a challenge that we have. And in the past, I mean, we have done extensive outreach, saturation mailers with a very light and not so much government newsletter, and just explaining the do's and don'ts. And we translated that into multiple languages and sent it out to everyone who receives mail. It did not really help because if you have a diet of fresh fruit and vegetables and fish or whatever other protein, they're not storing them in the house until the next garbage pickup. That's going right into the corner basket. So as a citywide policy, I think that's something that we have to look at, that there's just no capacity within these buildings to store garbage. And I just wanted to add that, food for thought.
Thank you. food, literally, in that case. Yeah, it's a very good point, and actually I can speak from personal experience in that, well, very recent personal experience in that we do have receptacles on our street. I live in CB1, but I recently started having to put some chicken into my trash, which I don't normally do. We were looking after a cat, and what I noticed was that immediately within 24 hours, the bin was starting to absolutely stink, and we had to start taking it out. Normally, it would be once a week, and we wouldn't even need to do that, but it's really been every couple of days since then. So I can concur on that front. Thank you. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to raise or discuss? We have about just under 15 minutes left, and we want to give a few minutes for wrap up. So can allow a few more minutes if anybody has anything to discuss. Pamela?
Oh, well, this conversation, a great time to continue it would be City of Water Day, July 16th. And you can come out, you're more than welcome to come out to Coney Island, to Kaiser Park, everyone. And if you'd like to table and get this message out and talk to the community.
Thank you. What's
and
City
get
of
some
Water Day?
feedback, you're more than welcome. And everyone here is welcome. City of Water, well, let me tell you, New York City, we're surrounded by 520 miles of water. So we are this city of water. And one of the things is that we don't always have access to water, like 9/11, private ferries and boats came to evacuate people from lower Manhattan, but there was no access. We have built these promenades where we don't have any access. I remember seeing the pictures where they were pulling the gates down and trying to put ladders up to rescue people. Well, this is a conversation that we have with communities, especially communities that live around the water, to make sure that we still have access in case of emergencies or just fun, or just be able to put your hands or your feet into the water. But we have these conversations about sanitation, about keeping the water clean, flood, climate change. This year, the focus is on climate change and sea level rise. But everything that we do, all of us, even though we're coming from different directions, the whole purpose is to stop or slow down sea level rise and climate change. And it's something that we can all work with together. So July 16th, we're in Kaiser Park. If you'd like to, you can email me and I'll send you an invitation.
Thank you. You'd be welcome as well to send the invitation to us, and we can circulate it to the attendees. That way, as many people as possible can get the invitation.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
I just want to say, if I can make a comment, that I love these exchange of ideas and sharing of sort of commiserating in some way, but hopefully with the idea of finding solutions. And I wish that we could have something like definitely you're all invited to come to our SWAB meetings. And I know Ollie will put in a nice plug for that. But I mean, we're doing a little more, even though it's over Zoom, talking a little bit more to one another and bringing up issues. But also, as Ollie said, we will share, legislation as it comes up and different actions and outreaches that we have that you guys can share with your constituents and your community boards as well. But
certainly likewise, we would welcome you sharing with us anything, that's key, that we can get involved with and spread the word about. And yeah, including relevant events like City of Water Day.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Okay, sorry, Rhonda, I cut you off a bit. Were you? No,
it's perfect. It was
okay,
perfect.
Cool. Thank you. Great. It seems a good time to begin the wrap-up process, unless anybody has anything burning that they would like to add as a final point. Lolita, go for it.
I just want to make a point of, I'm a beachgoer, and I've noticed that there's a lot of stuff sometimes comes from the water. And I was trying to look at it, and it looks like there's a few there are a few waste plants that from which some waste, when they load it to the barge or whatever the process they're doing, that waste is getting washed out in a Kaiser Park in the creek. and also in the beaches, in the, in the city beaches and the Coney Island beaches. So I don't know if there's any way to address that, just to look at those waste plants and the processes that they're using, because for what I'm hearing, when they transfer the garbage to the barges, they lose a few stuff, in the water, and it just washes out. I just see stuff coming, floating my way sometimes when it's a tide. Not to mention that some boats are dumping their stuff too. I don't know to whom to address that. I think it's probably Coastal Guard or whatnot, but the waste plants probably is related to sanitation.
Is there a marine waste transfer station near you, right? There's one in South Brooklyn. I don't know. If that's-
Bensonhurst, yes.
There's one in Bensonhurst.
Yeah, it appears to be coming from there, because I was looking at those, location of those waste plants. And when we did a beach cleanup at the Kaiser Park, I think that's some stuff coming from there as well. This is a big chunks of debris. It's not like little things that we could find from the outfall. It's also like stuff that's coming in. It looks like it's coming from those plants or from the boats.
Can I just say, so the garbage is put into containers inside of the marine transfer station and then placed on the barge. So if you're seeing waste, you should report that immediately. That's a violation of their operating plan. So that's what I would recommend. But I live on the water too in Rockaway. And this season, we're just seeing an increase in the amount of garbage coming up as well.
Well, if you see that the containers or the boats are dumping stuff, that should be reported to DEC.
Right. And can I also say, everybody here knows about the combined sewer overflow. Somebody mentioned CSO, and Pamela, I think, mentioned CSOs. And everybody knows that most catchment areas in New York City are CSOs, which are combined sewer overflow systems. So if it rains more than 3/4 of an inch per hour, I think it is, then it goes, what's that, Marnie? Sorry, you're muted. I want to hear your objections.
I said it used to be 3/4. I think now they put
it's
out
even less.
It's 1/10 of an inch.
Right. You're right. You're exactly right.
Yes.
You're exactly right. Excuse me. Yes, I misspoke. It is 1/10 of an inch per hour. And so all of our street water then goes into those catchment drains and gets washed out into those outfall pipes, which also I heard people mention outfall pipes. So many things can get battered, and they're a little worse for the wear along the way. And so when they come out, it does seem like it could be from a barge, but it actually could be from the street litter that is combining with our, of course, home sewage. So
yeah, it's a good point. Thank you, Rhonda.
Yeah.
I'm going to pass very, very quickly to Anne as a final remark before we close up.
Oh, I forget who it was that was speaking about the plastic bags being given out still. You can voice your concerns about that by calling DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, and ask to speak to the commissioner, Bezel Secos, and just say, report the stores you see that are still giving out plastic bags, or even if you don't know which particular stores there are, just say you see so many littering the beaches, and you're very, very upset about it. So just let him know. He's the one who's supposed to be leading the charge on that. DEC Bezel Secos. Strange name, but.
Thank you, Anne. That's great. All right, we have just a few minutes left, so I'm gonna wrap it up. So a big thank you to everyone for all your contributions. It's been a really good discussion. Just gonna share my screen again very briefly to wrap us up. Can you see again? Yeah. Okay. Great. So in terms of next steps, what we'll do is we'll send around a feedback form for you, and you're also welcome to contact us directly if you had any thoughts about tonight's meeting. As we said, it was kind of a bit of an experiment, and ideally the first the first step in a multi-step process rather than being a one-off event. So we really appreciate your input tonight, but we'd also really appreciate your input on what we can do next, and whether you found the format of tonight useful, whether you found the discussion useful. We'll send the notes around as well to the attendees, as well as sharing them with the Borough President's Office. Obviously, Lacey's been with us throughout, so thank you, Lacey, and we'll loop you in on that as well. What that will do is it will raise a series of issues, and so we can start a discussion, a dialogue with both the Borough President's Office and specific community boards as well on action points, and see what's already happening to tackle those issues, and what could be done within our powers to tackle those issues. And we would like, as I said, this to be the first in a series of events, or series of get-togethers rather than just a one-off event. So we'd love to know what we could do next time. We could focus in on a particular topic, and just community boards attend where it's relevant to them. Obviously, we talked about shoreline waste a lot, so that could be one topic, for example. Rats could obviously be another topic, and we could invite particular guest organizations as well to that. It needn't just be limited to us, to have a more broad roundtable on that topic, and we can also check in on the key issues and any progress that's been made on them next time we get together as well. Another thing we'll ask is whether you're happy for your contact information to be shared, so that people can see who attended the meeting. I know a lot of you put your contact details already in the chat, and thank you for doing that. But what we'll probably do is just append an attendee list to the notes. But if you're not happy for your contact info to be shared, then please just let us know, and we'll knock you off. And finally, I did want to make a plug for the next Brooklyn Solid Waste Advisory Board meeting. That's July the 11th at 6:30 p.m. It's over Zoom, so you needn't leave the comfort of your home. It would normally be on the first Monday of the month, but because it's July 4th, we're not doing it on that holiday. We're doing it the following week. We will obviously include you on the invitation for that, so you're very, very welcome to attend. We'd love to see you. And so that's it. Those are our contact details. You can email us directly. You've had the invitation from our email address, but you can contact us on the social media as well. We also have a burgeoning YouTube channel that we need to upload more stuff to. But yes, that's us. I'll bring this meeting to a close if nobody has any objections, and a big thank you again to everyone for attending, and I hope you all have a lovely rest of your evening, and we'll keep in touch. So thank you.
Thanks for stopping by.